دایی یه فرصت خوب حالا پشت مدافعان خداداد عزیزی توی دروازه گل گل برای ایران خداداد عزیزی باز هم روی زمین گشت سردار بود و توی دروازه بود گل به نام آزمونده برای ایران بزنه کریم ازاری گل توی دروازه کریم ازاری دروازه پرتغال باز شد علی دایی سام توپ توی دروازه گل اشتباه حرکت از کوچان نژاد فرصت برای کوچان نژاد توی دروازه گل برای ایران.
Hi, welcome to the latest Gold Bezan episode. We are previewing not just Iran's World Cup qualifiers for the month of March, the Nowruz edition of World Cup qualifiers, but also a lot to get to in terms of Legionnaires, a lot in terms of the women's realm of Iranian football, a lot of the youth teams. We're going to talk about that. Asian Champions League, PGPL. We're going to get into all of that. My name is Samson Tamijani. I'm hosting this edition. And we have one of our regulars, Erfan Hoseiny. Erfan, what's up?
Yeah, hello, Samson, and hello to everyone. Once again, very happy to be on here, especially considering it's a Nowruz episode. As always, very excited.
Yeah, and we can't say he's a normal guest now, but he's one of the OGs, the original gangsters of Gol Bezan. That's Sina Saemian, straight out of the UK. Sina, it's good to hear your voice again, mate, and see you for those on YouTube.
Thank you, Samson. Likewise. I don't know if you guys seen it before, but sometimes in the Premier League, when they haven't really got any plans for half time, they bring out the old veterans that played 150, 200 games, 30 years ago. And this is what it feels like. But still, pleasure to be here. I think it must have been 18 months ago last time I was on an episode. So a bit nervous, probably not match fit, but I'm relying on Erfan to do most of the heavy lifting here.
Well, if need, you'll just be the utility player for today, mate. So all good on that. So as we said, we're going to get into the new Team Melli squad list coming up in a bit. Asian Champions League, Persian Gulf Pro League, the Legionnaires, as well as, of course, the main issues surrounding Team Melli. Let's start off with just getting thoughts from our last episode, which was released on March 8th. Previewing the National Women's Soccer League, primarily being the two players of Iranian descent, the first Iranian women's players to play professionally in the U.S. In Europe, we had Yasemin Farmani, the wife of Ali Gholizadeh. She was playing in Belgium with the Iran national team as well. But for this, I had the pleasure of speaking with Zara Chavoshi. She's a rookie, new signing with Orlando Pride, the reigning champions of NWSL. They won it last year, led by several veterans of the U.S. national team, with the Brazilian national team, Marta. She's playing with all them. I got to ask her about that. And I talked with Lilian Albet from Los Angeles with Angel City FC, which she is entering, I believe, her fourth season with them now. Erfan, Sina, do you guys get to listen to that? What do you guys think of how I did?
I listened to it. I think it was a really good episode. It's not something we usually do, and I think it was a perfect fit for International Women's Day. It was nice hearing their stories, the background of where they came from, and if they'd consider to play for the national team or not. And of course, are we surprised that there has been no contact, just as there has been none in the men's side as well. Growing up with Iranian culture, how what they experienced in the U.S. and their experience. Yeah, it was a nice thing overall.
Definitely, and I think, Samson, it might be one where it would be good to catch up with them again in the near future and see how they develop. And I'm not sure if the FA will get in touch, knowing how unorganized they are, but it'll be good to track their career and see how they progress.
It's almost a given that they have not been contacted by the Iranian Federation to play for the women's national team. But it just, from a purely football standpoint, And a financial standpoint, the more you succeed, the more revenue you get, as prize money when you get to these tournaments. The Asian Cup, if you qualify for something like, say, the Olympics or the Women's World Cup. Iran has such a rich history with athletics going thousands of years. And it's not just men, it's women as well. Let's not pretend like women don't exist, okay? Because they always have. And there have always been superior Iranian athletes who are women. We just haven't gotten a chance to see them. Well, I got the privilege of seeing these players, and they are not bench warmers, at least throughout their career. One of them is half Vietnamese. She played with the Canadian U20 national team because her parents have Canadian nationality in the Canada's participation in the U20 Women's World Cup a few years ago. And they were very disorganized. They did not get a chance to utilize her to her full potential. When it comes to collegiate play in the U.S., women's, it is a fantastic development stage for women. And she was a starter. She was one of the, I think even one of the captains of a team that went to the national championship in the U.S. Of Division I play, which includes something like 200 teams. And she has eligibility to play for Vietnam if they want to get her, if they have the awareness. I would think that Iran knows a little bit more, historically speaking, of accomplishments, at least in the men's side. Well, why not try to translate that to women? They made the last Asian Cup. They got a fantastic point out of the host match, the host team, India, in a game that unfortunately did not get to count because of COVID. Again, this is early 2021. So there is so much potential there that they are at least contributing a little bit too. They had that camp that they had in Turkey, where they played Puerto Rico, a team in which has all players based in the United States. They tied them 0-0 and then lost 2-0. By the way, Puerto Rico ranked 20 spots below Iran women in FIFA. What I'm trying to say is there's no excuse at all. There is no decent excuse. If you want to say that you are striving to up your game in the international sense in the women's game, you don't have to, create a new element on the periodic table. You have two great players in the top division of professional women's soccer. Call them up. They told me that they would be foolish not to be interested. The worst that can happen is you call up a player, they say no. What I got from that conversation is that they are not interested. And at least the second player I talked with, Lily, told me that it would be a dream come true for her to represent Iranians across the world. You talk about, obviously, the challenge. Oh, well, they're going to have to deal with, going across the world, playing in a hot climate with dealing with the federation and their standards, or what they have to wear. Okay, that's fair, but what did they tell me? They told me they're all fine with the aspect of playing internationally and representing Iran. Give it a try. Try to make the Asian Cup. Try to make the World Cup. Philippines did it. South Korea's done it. Jordan has invested so much. Saudi Arabia has invested so much. Why not us? Shekhar Mekhoni. Like, what are we doing? Where is the hesitation here that's justified? There is no justification. I cannot stress this enough. Two players in the top league of the world in women are Iranian. Would be okay with representing Iran. This is a chance to bring us into just almost even a spotlight on the international stage. You have so much conversation about, oh, well, should Iran call up Kaveh Zahir al-Islam, Iranian American? Should they call up Dennis Eckert? Well, on one hand, we got all these players that we've already integrated into the squad. We're already doing well. We're in a top spot for World Cup qualification. That's not the same discussion with women. They can come in. They can learn how to communicate with the players already there. They can integrate. They can even develop to become leaders on this team. The question is, do we care to add in 2 minutes of our time to invest in getting them a freaking flight over to the camp, integrating them into the squad, and helping us win a few games. Imagine what we can do with just that. Just 2 players that they did not spend years developing in Iran, did not have to invest so much time and money. Just call them up, ask them if you want to. Okay, here's your plane ticket. You need your passport? All right, let's follow this process. Let's get that. This isn't rocket science. If we want to accomplish more on the international stage, this is the chance to do it. This is a chance to really bring legitimacy into the women's game in Iran. You want to get all the monkeys off your back, Federation? This is how you do it. Bring them in and watch us go up 30 spots in the ranking. Watch us qualify for the Asian Cup. Watch us legitimately attempt to make the World Cup. Philippines did it because of 2 businessmen calling up clubs in the U.S., asked them if they want to, flew them across the Pacific Ocean. Next thing you know, Philippines is in the Women's World Cup. They're adding more teams to the Women's World Cup. Why not us? So, anyway, that's my soapbox for today, guys. that's what I have. Just to pass along the other updates with women's football in Iran. Our women won the Futsal CAFA Cup, Central Asia, quite easily, beating Turkmenistan easily, beating I think it was Tajikistan. They defeated very easily, and then Uzbekistan was at 4-0 in the final. So that was great to see. They did that about a month ago. They qualified for the Asian Cup, which is May 16th through the 17th. If they do well enough in that, they will qualify for the inaugural Women's Futsal World Cup, November 21st through early December in the Philippines. That would be awesome to see. We haven't gotten a chance to really see our women on the international stage beyond just women, rather winning the Asian Cup. They're starting a new tournament. That's the Women's Futsal World Cup. That would be a great thing to see Iran compete in. Our men have gotten so close so many times, very disappointingly. Now it's a chance for women to prove what they have, and they are one of the best teams in the world. So that'd be great to see. Before we move on, any other input on that, guys, or you want to talk about the youth teams that we've seen in recent weeks?
I want to add something. A documentary released, I think a week or 2 ago, about Zohre Kudai. You guys remember her? She put on a fantastic performance at the Asian Cup when Iran qualified last time. Before that, in the Asian Cup qualifiers, she saved, I think, 2 penalties and the shootout against Jordan, which qualified us for the Asian Cup. And she went through a lot after that. And the documentary, I think, was released by Football 360, is just amazing and absolutely beautiful. If you guys have the time, please check it out. It's not too long. I think it's only 20 or 25 minutes long.
We'll try to put
a link
in the description.
Yeah, for sure. It's an amazing documentary.
I've watched a lot of women's soccer growing up in the U.S. I referee a lot of competitive travel league soccer. These are girls who are recruited to play at colleges or in the youth academies of professional teams. I've seen a lot of good and bad goalie displays. What Kudai displayed in the 2021 Asian Cup against all odds was one of the greatest women's goalkeeping performances I've ever seen. It was fantastic. She's a legend of Iranian women's football, bar none. Okay, that being said, bring up some of the performances of youth teams, most notably the men's U20 team in the Asian Cup fell 1 game short of qualifying for the U20 World Cup a few weeks ago against Japan. For those who watched, I'm sorry to bring up the bad memory, but it was a game in which Iran seemed at a tactic and physical disadvantage to the Japanese, still were able to bring them to penalties after a 1-1 regulation draw, and missed the first 2 penalties. Erfan, I know you watched that. What did you make of that in the state of our youth national team?
I think it resembles our senior national team as well in a way, because we played well in the group stage. We Even though we did lack tactics here and there, we relied a lot on the long balls, corners, just as this team did on the U17 stage as well. But yeah, in the Japan game, yeah, we struggled a lot. We were very lucky to even make it to penalties. I'll give this to them. You know, they defended very well. The players did put their bodies on the line, literally several times as well, to protect the nets. And yeah, heroic performance from Asha Shakuri. I think he should have been the best goalkeeper of the tournament. He wasn't, unfortunately. Then someone else got it. But yeah, without him, the game would have been done much, much earlier.
Remind me which players Iran was missing. The clubs didn't release them, Erfan.
So Kasra Tahiri was not released by Ruben Kazan. This one was very strange because he didn't even make the bench for them during the tournament. So I don't know why that happened. And then there were two players from Fulad. I can't remember their names. I think one of them scored against Persepolis. I remember that. But yeah, they weren't released by Yahya Gul Mohammadi, which was unfortunate.
Sina, what do you make of these persisting failures of the youth national team, despite the fact that the senior national team remains the top number 1, top number 3 national team in Asia and top 20 in the world? At this stage in 2025, what should we make of this?
I think Erfan said something interesting in terms of there being not being a specific tactical plan for the tournament. I think that is more or less a reflection of the youth system currently in place in Iran. The reason I say that is down the years, I've consistently said when it comes to technical ability, up to the ages of maybe 18 to 20, we are up there with the very best across the continent, if not maybe on par with some European countries. So from that age, so if you look at it from 18, 19, and then up to maybe 23, that's when the tactical awareness is kind of developed the most with those players. That is essentially the next stage of their development. And that is where we fail almost every single year. And even if we look at past experiences, I think, and Erfan can correct me, was it 2016, 17, last time we qualified for the World Cup? And maybe Noor Afghan might have been a part of that team.
2017.
So even from that particular experience where we succeeded, you know, if we quantify qualifying for the World Cup as a success, then from that team there's only one, maybe maximum 2 players that are currently playing the national team, and that's the main problem for me, that pathway is not there. So even if we have success at youth level, there isn't really a pathway for these players to make it into the national team. And then it goes back to what they're doing with their clubs, getting opportunities, getting minutes, and that doesn't really exist. And that kind of, I guess that's segueing into my next point, which is, yes, it's very disappointing not to qualify for the World Cup, but it's not the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have any talents in the country. It's more about now finding a way to give these players minutes, give them experience. And that's the only way they can develop, because like I said, even if they qualified for the World Cup but they're not playing regularly for their clubs, they're not really getting anywhere, and it's no benefit to the state of our football either. And just to say as well, that by no means does that take anything away from if there was any kind of tactical deficiencies within the team. Obviously the coaching staff, they're still responsible to get the best out of the team from tactical aspects. So that is still a failure on their part. But I think looking at it from the bigger picture, it's more about, okay, where do we go from here? And for me, from where I'm standing, the only solution is giving minutes to these young players, because there's no doubt they are talented.
Moving on then, bit of a catching our viewers up with Legionnaires, how they're doing. Obviously, Taremi has been the main talk on the international stage in Champions League and in the Scudetto. He's been getting a lot of minutes for Inter Milan, but maybe not living up to that. But before we dive into him, let's dive into a little bit of others. Maybe other guys. Well, we don't really have hardly anyone in Europe, and Erfan, I'll let you get into that. But also the guys in your backyard, Erfan. The guys playing in UAE. Azmoun has been becoming the star of the show. with Godus playing a lot as well. By the way, update us on what are the playing time measurements looking like for a lot of our main Legionnaires, Erfan, and who's living up to the expectations and who's not?
For Europe or for the UAE?
Both. The non big everyone besides Taremi, because we'll get to him in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, Majid Hosseini, I think, started his first game yesterday after more than a year, and he got a decent performance. I think he was the best player on his team.
In the Turkish.
Yeah, in the Turkish league for Kayserispor. Ali Karemi also started that game. He's not been having the best of seasons here. But yeah, Majid played well yesterday. Hopefully, he can find his form again because we really need him. We really do. And then who else do we have? Salah Mahrami. He didn't get called up for this game. We'll talk about that later. But he's also not been playing much, unfortunately, after his return from injury. And we don't even have much players. Gholizadeh has been playing. He's been doing well, actually. One of the fewer players. Jehan Bakhsh as well. He's been starting all their games for Herenveen. And then in the UAE, Qaidi, Azmoun, Ezdullahi, Nurullahi, Qudus, they've all been playing. Maybe Qudus a bit less in the one or two games. I think he didn't start. I'm not sure what happened. I think he had an injury or something. Mohandu also, he's starting most of their games. But yeah, it's sad. A few years ago we had so many players in Europe. We didn't even have enough time to talk about everyone. But now it's just a handful of players.
That's what I was going to ask Sina about. Sina, I think when you were a lot more often in our episodes, it was when we were discussing the difficulty of keeping up with all of our European-based players. Now we have to remind ourselves that who's still there and who's not. Is this a concern heading into next year's World Cup that maybe the players are not testing themselves amongst Europe's best anymore?
I think not having players in Europe is always a concern in itself. But then also when you look at some of the players that do play in the UAE, the likes of Qudus, for example, Mohandu even, Ezatullah, these are players that, although Qudus obviously came through in Sweden and then played in the Premier League, but he's looking at the latter stages of his career. And I've always kind of wondered, with players like him or Dejaga back in the day when you've played in the Premier League, you've, in Dejaga's case, won the Bundesliga, you've played in the World Cup. Is there really anything that's keeping you going other than financial motives? And the answer is probably no. So for some of those players, it does make it a better sense. I think Osman is particularly disappointing because he's obviously got the quality to play at some of the top European leagues. I think the disappointing experience that he had at Leverkusen and maybe Roma wasn't necessarily a success either. It's kind of put him off. But also, he's always been a big fish in a small pond kind of player. You look at his time in Russia as well, and playing for the best team obviously really helped his confidence, and it looks like he's gaining his confidence back. Just going back to the question that you raised, I think it's a transition of generations, and it's more for the younger generation now finding opportunities, being advised correctly to move to Europe. Now, obviously, we do have quite a few players in Russia. So with the current political tensions involving Russia, yes, it's better than Iran, but they're not really getting the opportunity to play continental Europe. Whether it's Conference League, Europa League, or even the Champions League. But it's good that they are kind of taking those chances and moving out of Iran, and we just need more examples of that. But the likes of, like I said, Mohandu, even Nurullahi, I think it's a positive that they don't play in Iran because they're not. I don't think they're good enough to play in Europe. And if they are in Iran, they're really taking minutes away from maybe some of the younger players coming through. So move, to the UAE or even Qatar is probably the best option for them. Goalie is another one where I think we'll look back in a few years and be even more disappointed, after his career's ended, to think this guy never had the chance or never took the chance to play in Europe. Obviously, there was links to Celtic a few years ago because he's definitely got the quality. He's still at an age where he can take that chance. I guess it's more up to him and where his ambitions lie.
Going into 2026, it's pretty much accepted that this will be the final chance for Mehdi Taremi to, prove or at least have a pinnacle for the Iranian national team. Um, he has fallen maybe a little bit short of those clutch expectations going to, I mean, before he went to Europe, really, 2018, and then 2022, having a chance to level against the U.S., or at least lead the charge to level or defeat the U.S. Didn't get it done. A red card in the Asian Cup. Couldn't get it done against Qatar in the semifinal. Struggling a little bit with Inter Milan in his first season. And it's a little disheartening, but he's also been playing with a knock, a little bit of a groin issue. In fact, it sounds like an injury I've had even playing. And he's already 32. This is pretty much gonna be his last chance next year, unless he also wants to try to play in the Asian Cup after 2026. What do we think of this situation right now with Inter Milan? Because Inzaghi, the coach at Inter Milan, he's giving all the chances in the world, despite playing with a little bit of a knock. But he's only managed one goal, and that was it the Supercopa against Inter, or against AC Milan? He scored, and then they end up losing anyway. So this has been a little disappointing. What do we make of the situation with Taremi? Does it look like he might have to leave Inter after just one season, or should he stay on through next year, through to the World Cup, if Inter will have him? What do you make of that, Sina? What have you been noticing?
I think, look, he was never going to hit the numbers that he did at Porto, and I think we have to be realistic with that. He's going into a team that are Champions League contenders, former kind of Champions League finalists in the last 2 years, with a settled team challenging for Serie A. So he was always going to be more of a rotation option for Inzaghi. And as you said, Inzaghi has been kind of giving him those minutes. I don't think it's been disappointing as such. It's not been great, but I think it's just been average. Average is probably the right word to use, because some of the games I've seen from him, he's not been particularly bad. I think he's done what kind of he's been told to do. He's supported the team, has helped the team, and helped the second striker that he plays with as well, and that's always a positive. The fact that he's getting opportunities more and more as well is a sign that Inzaghi still trusts in him. So he is sticking to the instructions that he's given for every match. In terms of what happens next year, look, if the knock really is the reason why maybe he's not being as great as we would have expected him to be, then we'll only find out over the summer and how he recovers from that. Bearing in mind as well, correct me if I'm wrong, but he had a good pre-season before the league started. So considering as well he's got a 3-year contract, I'm not sure if they'll be able to essentially get rid of him as quickly as they'd want. He's, like you said, 32. He's got a 3-year contract, so he's not going to be a free agent. Teams probably aren't going to pay a large transfer fee for him, and he's a good squad player. I think he's worth kind of sticking to. He's intelligent enough to adapt and to settle. I think he just needs a bit more time. But I think if the first half of next season he's still maybe not performing as well as he's expected to, then yeah, potentially we could be seeing him drop to the bench first, and then sort of maybe loaned out, and then yeah, transferred out.
Well, his main co-collaborator, Azmoun, bailed and went to UAE, where Erfan is seeing him a lot more. What do you think, Erfan? Obviously, Taremi would succeed a lot more, or would get a lot more stats if he went to an easier league like UAE. What have you made of this, and should he stick it out with Inter?
I think, Taremi has been playing in a different role this season as well. I mean, back in Porto, he usually played in a two-striker formation. and he was always the main guy they would look out for. And yeah, it's true, Inter are also playing a two-striker formation, but he seems to be shifting more to the back this time, and I see him being also a lot less selfish, and that's not always a good thing, especially if you're a striker. There's been several times where I think he could have shot the ball, but he opted for the more safe option in the pass,
Is that a confidence
which
thing too? Is
I
he
think
losing
it
confidence?
I think it is. I think it is. Once it happened, once, twice, and the three times it just happens more and more. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but I do want to see him stay at Inter Milan next season. I mean, it is the Italian league after all. I mean, it's known historically to be one of the best defensive leagues in the world, if not the best. And it's not an easy thing to score. And yeah, he only has one non-penalty goal this season, which was the goal against Milan, like you said. Um, Hopefully he can pick up form before the season ends and build onto it next season. But being realistic, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Well, look, as someone who focuses on the Iranian national team, we have noticed him taking maybe a little bit less of a killer instinct role with the national team. What I've noticed in recent games, when he gets a golden opportunity, he takes the shot. A lot of times he doesn't shoot as or finish as well as he has in previous years, and we've given him a little bit of criticism about that. Think to what was it, North Korea? He missed the penalty. Um, when we were running away, we were running North Korea out of the building, and then next thing you know, we're only up by what, one goal against North Korea, and this is a player playing in Serie A, and he's not being able to take control or carry his team to the finish line of a game against North Korea. So I have noticed a little bit less confidence of him, less of a just. I mean, I say less of a leadership role, but he has shown himself to be a leader with the national team before in many instances. But we're not seeing it in these ordinary games in which Iran has to hold on for a one-goal lead against inferior competition, or not finish the chances against a team that's trying to draw them, like Uzbekistan, which they have a chance in this next couple matches. So he's been leaving us wanting more, and that's unfortunate because he is dealing with a little bit of an injury. But he's starting the matches nonetheless, and he's getting the playing time with Inter. He's getting the playing time, obviously, calling up with the national team. So what is fair to expect of Taremi, or for that matter, the main leaders of Team Melli during this international break? What should we expect from them?
Can I just add two things on that? So, first, we've seen this across top European clubs, where if as a player you're not told to do specifically what the manager is asking you to do, you're not going to get any minutes going forward. So I think the fact that he's getting opportunities means he's doing what the manager is asking him to do. So maybe part of those performances and as you said, leaving us wanting more is to do with his new role that Erfan explained at Inter Milan. But also something that I'm more than happy for people to disagree with me. Taremi has never been a clinical finisher. Taremi's genius has always been in his movements and finding opportunities where other strikers don't. And I think that's the main concern that you can, if you're really looking for a concern from his time at Inter Milan, that's the main concern, that he's not finding those opportunities. Now you can blame, not necessarily blame, but you can put that down to the tactics of what he's being asked to do, but also as, like I said, individually, his brilliance has always been in his movement, finding opportunities, creating chances for himself and his teammates, and he's not been doing enough of that. And that kind of comes into the national team as well, because, like you said, maybe his performances haven't been as great as they have been in previous years. Part of that is Ghalenoei, as I'm sure we'll come into that later. But yeah, and also just going back to what Erfan said as well, part of it is also confidence. So there's probably multiple factors at play here.
Well, from that point, let's move on into what the Team Melli squad is going to look like as of the recording of this episode, going into Thursday's match and the following Tuesday's match. Here is the 28-man list that we have seen right now. That is for the goalkeepers: Payam Niazmand, Mohamed Khalife, and Beran Van. Whether he's earned it or not, we'll talk about that in a second. Defenders, Hossein Hosseiny, the goalkeeper Hossein Hosseiny, also called up, as we said. Milad Mohammadi in the defense, Norat Khan, Nemati, Hossein Kenani, Amin Hazbavi, Arya Yousefi. Our favorite, Shoja Gholizadeh, has been called up again, despite the fact that he's working on getting his social security checks. He's what, 60-something years old already. Hardani has been called up. Erfan's superhero Cheshmi has been called up. Who else am I missing? Oh, Daniel, what was this? Eri? I never said his name out loud, Erfan. Is that say
Daniel Iri.
Eri, yeah, right. Mohibi, Gaidi, Godus, Ezotolahi, Gorbani, Mohammad, Karimi, Jahanbakhsh, Ali Gholizadeh. It's good that he's it's just good that he's able to bring a technical leadership side to his game, to the national team, that he's called up again, Gholizadeh. It's good to see he's been playing well also. And then Taremi, Hossein Ajad, Ali Alipur, Azmoun. I say Hossein Zadeh yet, and then Razaginia from Golgahar. Erfan, you said. So yeah, 28 players total. And as of this recording, this has just come out. Erfan, what are we making of this? Anything that pops out at you right away, or snubs?
Great added to this when I look at there, why is Gholizadeh still there? In the previous camps, okay, I would have said he's performing well for Tractor, but he's not even performing well anymore. I mean, just like an hour or two ago, he made a horrible mistake. Both him and Bayraman, horrible mistake that led to a goal from Golgahar. And then Ali Alipur, he deserves to be called up. I'm happy he's there. I wish Omid Alisha was there, though. I know he's a bit old, but he's been fantastic. I mean, I would say the best player in the PGPL right now. He's been amazing. So if you want to insist on calling up all these old PGPL players, at least call up the better ones. And then Razagnia also got his first call up. I'm happy for him. He was one of Iran's better players at the U20 Asian Cup. Yeah, always nice to see Rusbek Cheshmi there as well.
No Morganlu, Sina. No Morganlu.
No Morganlu. Maybe it's finally time. Maybe we've escaped him.
Firstly, good to see you've taken down your Rusbek Cheshmi posters from your room.
We hardly knew you.
This is going to be controversial. I don't really have a problem with Gholizadeh being called up. I don't have a problem with these experienced players being called up, because, again, we're going through a transitional period. We can't just cut everyone out on day one and then introduce a completely new team and expect everything to go smoothly. I think where my problem is that it's the minutes that he's getting, not necessarily that he's involved in the national team. Look, we've talked about Hasbobi so many times across the past 3 or 4 years since he broke onto the scene. Obviously, we have Iri now coming in. We've had other young defenders coming through. These players aren't being given opportunity to show what they can do. And just going back to something you mentioned earlier, Samson, you were talking about players playing players not playing in Europe, and Taremi being in Europe at the age of 32 next year, World Cup, and then potentially he's having to play in the Asian Cup, in probably in the last World Cup. Well, do we know it's going to be his last World Cup? Because as things stand, 18 months before the Asian Cup, or 2 years before the Asian Cup, we don't even know who could potentially step in his shoes if he was going to retire from international football. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is him playing in the next Asian Cup is not a decision up to him. We'll probably need him because we haven't given opportunities to other players to make that step up and for them to go through that transition. And it's the exact same thing with the goalkeeping position, with central defense, with midfield, central midfield, where we are lacking options. But I think that central defense is a major concern. Because we do have the players, we do have these players coming through who are kind of performing in the domestic league as well. But as long as you're playing the 35-year-old every single game, that 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old isn't suddenly going to wake up one day and he's now ready to face the best players in the world come the next World Cup. So my problem is with the split of the minutes between the experienced players and the young players, not necessarily the inclusion of the experienced players.
We have to conclude, if we still believe in honesty and rational thought, is that there is no way Erfan Hoseiny is now the starter of Team Melli. You'd think it's Hoseiny. He's been playing out of his mind for club and in the Champions League. Do we think that Ghalenoei is ready to have a new man in goal? Erfan, Sina?
First of all, I want to mention, the Cheshire posters are currently being polished in time for Nowruz. So they will be back. Yeah, they will be back soon, don't worry. Uh, and for the goalkeeper issue, so what I necessarily think is that I'm not saying Hosseini should be the starting goalkeeper, but I don't think Beyravan should be the starting goalkeeper either. And unfortunately, I don't know if Ghalenoei is ready to put him aside. If he's I don't think he's ready to do that. I think he's too scared to play one of the younger guys. I mean, since he came in,
he won a game in the World Cup, mate.
Yeah. I mean, since Ghalenoei came in, there's only been one game which I can remember of Beyraman not starting, and that was against Turkmenistan, which he started Hoseiny, one of the games. Unless I'm missing a game, but yeah, he's relying way too much on this player, and he's been atrocious. Like over this past 1 or 2 months, he's been doing all these interviews talking about things outside of football, and I think that's affected him a lot. He has his case going on as well. I don't know how that's going on, but yeah, it's been affecting him. As you can see, he's nowhere the player he was a few years ago. He's having mistakes every single game. I'm not saying it's wrong that he's called up. I think he should be called up, but if he should be starting, I don't think so.
Just on the fear of Ghalenoei starting a different goalkeeper, if we go back to whenever it was the Beyraman was given the opportunity and started for the national team. At that point, I think he was only playing for NAFT. He hadn't played for any other clubs. He would have been in his early 20s. And it was the right decision to make him the first choice goalkeeper. If Queiroz wouldn't have made that decision to give him those chances, I think before the 2015 Asian, after the Asian Cup, he wouldn't have been able to make that his role, being the number one goalkeeper. So again, similar with what we discussed about the central defenders in the current qualification system, where he allows us to experiment, the pressure isn't on us as much as it might have been 10, 15, 20 years ago. Hoseiny, other goalkeepers, Khalifa, who has obviously performed really well in domestic league, they need to be given opportunities. Erfan, you might be able to help you. Do you know when we can confirm a qualification to the World Cup?
We need a win and a draw. So
from these two games,
to confirm, yeah. So win against UAE and draw against Uzbekistan, or vice versa, to qualify.
And that leaves us an additional 2 games of the qualification to go. So what we're talking here is, after this window, if we have qualified, I'm going to bet good money that in those final 2 games, we're still going to see the same faces playing almost 90 minutes in both games, and that's where the disappointment is. And Hoseiny has to be number one for me. I know Beroman obviously has been there for a while, but like Erfan said, Beroman has been really disappointing in his performance. Every time I've watched him for Taraktor and before that for Persepolis in the past year or two, he's not been at his reliable self that he might have been, 5-6 years ago. And Hoseiny, on the other hand, is proving that he's I think better than him, if not at least at the same level.
Just something I wanted to mention before we move on. We've always said he's a good penalty saver as well, and if we go to a shootout, he'll probably save a penalty or two. But even that doesn't seem to be true anymore. I mean, his team went to a penalty shootout in the ACL too, and he didn't get a single penalty in the right way. So disappointing to see.
Yeah, it's the little things that we're noticing from him. From his, it seems that there's a lot of miscommunications with his defenders. There's a lot of misjudgments with the ball. We saw that in the national team going back a couple of years. Anyone remember the Lebanon game in Beirut? I mean, what was that, bro? And those were not unique circumstances. We've been noticing this time and time again. Just what something's got to give from Ghalenoei, which leads me to ask: does Ghalenoei still deserve a vote of confidence? Mathematically, we're all but in the World Cup, albeit not convincingly in a match-by-match basis. And we don't always agree with the player selection. We don't always agree with the lineups. But this has been a very, on paper, smooth progression into qualification for the World Cup. In March 2025, does Ghalenoei have our vote of confidence, neglecting the fact of who else would we get? But does he have a vote of confidence right now in your mind, Sina?
You're asking me to basically answer this out of the context of everything else. And the answer is actually, I guess, the answer is no. I don't think he's the best man for the job. But it does make a difference as to who we're going to get next with such little time to go as well. Because we're not going to get Queiroz back. And that was the only reason, I think, the only valid reason to get rid of Skocic just before the World Cup. That's not going to happen this time. So if you are going to get somebody else in, are they realistically going to have enough time to really build the team? And also, if a big part of our concerns are the fact that, this older generation is still kind of lingering, and come 2026, Gholizadeh and Kanoni are going to be the starting centre-backs, how likely is it that a new manager coming in with no knowledge of any of these players going to take that risk to change a lot of the starting lineup? So I think it's more of at this point, it's missed opportunities. So it should have been a change that took place maybe last year. But no, I don't think he's the best man for the job.
Erfan, obviously the answer of who would be brought in is Nekunam.
Nekunam. So
Your favorite
I cannot
criminal,
swear,
right?
right? I can't swear, can I?
No, we like to monetize.
Everyone is doing very well not to bite.
Yeah. But Ghalenoei, I've always been one of the few people. I've been in the minority to defend him, even at times where he was probably at fault. But my patience is running out with him. And if something doesn't change soon, then I think I'm gonna lose my confidence in him as well. As of now, I still am confident in him, but if things don't change soon, then yeah.
Well, there's been so much discourse and social media amongst Iranian fans about this, about the national team, and it's transcended into a lot of division with the game in the country itself, especially with the Persian Gulf Pro League, and how that compares to the rest of the continent. So many woes with the Asian Champions League. Again, no Iranian team having even a shot at the Asian Champions League title. We have a game of musical chairs with Persian Gulf Pro League, with coaches not being able to last, key signings not being able to really materialize. Erfan, give us a PGPL table update and update us on how really the league looks right now in Asia with being eliminated several teams in the Champions League. What's this look right now for Iranian domestic football?
Okay, so I'll start with the league. In the PGPL right now, Tractor are first with 48 points, although they do have a game in hand. Persepolis a point behind, 47 points, and then Sepahan with 46 points. So close title race between those three teams, Esteghlal, my team, and the Sinas, I believe, as well, not doing too well, unfortunately, all the way down in ninth place. And then at the bottom, Havadar and Nassau Mazandar are in the relegation zones as of now. But what I really want to talk about is the continental football, the Champions League. So yeah, we had four clubs in Asian competitions this season. We had two in the league stage of the AFC Champions League Elite, which is the first year. And then we also had Sepahan in the playoffs, which they lost into Sharab Al Ahli, so they dropped down to the second tier. Um, so in the ACL Elite, Persepolis only managed one win in 8 games against Al Short of Iraq, thanks to a last-minute penalty. Yeah, they couldn't make it to round of 16. They finished ninth in a table of 12 teams. And they had horrible performances throughout the campaign, especially in the last match day when Al Nassr sent a B or even a C team because they'd already qualified and everything was done for them. And in the Azadi Stadium with all those fans, I think it was like 75,000 fans in the stadium, they couldn't manage to score a single goal. And a very disappointing performance from them across the last few months in Asia. Even the likes of Pastakor in the Uzbek league, they finished above them. And then Esteghlal, they were better, but yeah, they were also a bit disappointing. Only managed 2 wins against Rayan and Al Gharrafa, both Qatari teams. And then, although they had a good performance against Al Nassr in the first leg, I think the second leg was a perfect example of how far ahead Saudi domestic football is ahead of Iranian domestic football right now. In the ACO2 step on were done a few months ago. Just horrible performances there. Couldn't win 2 games against a team from Jordan. Very disappointing. I don't even want to talk about it. But Tractor, on the other hand, they were playing well, and even they made it to the quarterfinals. They were playing against Saudi side Al Tawan, who are ninth or eighth in the Saudi league. I'm not sure, but they were the favorites for that game. They had a fantastic performance in Tabriz. Should have scored 2 goals, 3 goals, but after a good performance from their goalie, they finished that game with a 0-0 draw. Then, unfortunately, in the return leg, they lost on penalties.
Sina, that's I know that brought just a lot of happiness from what Erfan was saying. What do we make of this? Just like what I was saying, what do we make of this look of
This
Iranian football right now?
this isn't out of the ordinary. The Iranian teams being knocked out of the continental competitions is not abnormal. If you were to tell me, oh, Stefan's reached the final, that would be abnormal. So I think this is in line with what we've been seeing across the past 10, 15 years at least. I know Stepan and Zubahan both reached finals, I think in 2009, 2010. But since then, yeah, this is I wasn't expecting anything else, to put it simply. I think the Esteghlal game, as Erfan said, although they did brilliantly in the first leg, but look, we're talking about a 0-0 draw at home being brilliant in a knockout competition. That in itself, putting aside what's happening in the second leg, that in itself shows a difference between the two teams. And the second leg obviously showing clear superiority in terms of the quality, both technically and tactically. So, yeah, these are questions that have been asked plenty of times in the past 2 or 3 decades, and will continue to be asked. But this is where we are in continental club football, and unless there's better organizations with the clubs and being able to get better quality staff we won't be able to get anywhere else. I mean, look, the SLR situation, I'm not going to delve into it too much, but making an offer for Mazzari, an absolute washed up manager who has no ambition or desire to really achieve anything in his career. His best days are behind him. Why would you pay any money to bring someone like that across? And that in itself is a testament of the incompetence that we have at the higher levels across all the clubs.
By the way, remind everyone why Pizzo Masumane did not work, because he was bringing really good morale in terms of just the look and care that he seemed to have when he arrived. He made friends with a lot of prominent Iranian football figures, historical figures, and he seemed to have a lot of pride in what he did and in helping Esteghlal in Iran. What happened there?
Sina, would you like to go?
I was just going to say that based from the last few managers that the SLR has had, Mitsumana for me has probably been on paper. I thought, okay, this is going to work. This could work. And if I remember correctly, he had a very good start, and then things ended up going back to the way they were under Nekuno, which I think if you have an organization that's not working from the core, and there is obviously some core issues in there, a new manager coming in cannot resolve that issue within a few months. And I think getting rid of Mitsumana personally, I think he might have been from a lack of patience. And as we've seen, obviously, with the mess that has come since, he hasn't gotten much better. Erfan can correct me if that's not been the case.
Yeah, it's maybe slightly better, but overall, yeah, it's still at the same base. Mosimane, I loved the guy when he came in. You guys probably saw on Twitter how much I was tweeting about him, and that's because he was actually good when he first came in. I mean, the team was playing well, team was playing better. He was integrating a lot of youngsters in the team, which was something we didn't see much in the PGPL. But what happened with him? I mean, he got like, was it $80,000, which got delayed for a day because of a holiday in Iran, and then he just left the next day. So I'm not sure. I think maybe he was a bit scared of the next games because things weren't looking good for him. The performances had become much worse, and yeah, he left Esteghlal at a time where I think Esteghlal needed him a lot. Esteghlal needed a manager. I mean, they had the upcoming AFC Champions League games. They had the Tehran Derby coming up, and Esteghlal were very vulnerable at the time.
So they didn't get rid of him.
No, they didn't get rid of him. Actually,
Okay, then I
the
take
story
back
is
everything I just
funny.
said.
Yeah, the story is funny. He had a meeting with the board of Esteghlal in the afternoon of the day. He left the club. So he had a meeting like, okay, thank you. He thanked the CEO, he thanked the board, and he even attended the training session. Then after the training session, he sent a letter that I'm resigning, I'm leaving the country. So very weird.
It's discouraging to say the least. And it's unfortunate because, yeah, that's the figure, or at least that approach is something that is needed, I think, in Iranian football. Just how he started and everything, and teams need to have patience with someone like that who wants to invest. You're not going to have immediate success in 2 months, almost any time. Especially walking into a situation like a team in PGPL and in the continental competitions, et cetera, et cetera. But again, it's a different conversation to have. Shifting things back to the upcoming two World Cup qualifiers, first Thursday and then Tuesday, UAE and then Uzbekistan. A chance to get 3 points in the newly refurbished kind of Azadi Stadium on Nowruz, no less, against UAE. And then a chance to finish off Uzbekistan after a very discouraging play the last time we played Uzbekistan. What should we expect from this? I don't want to do predictions yet, but should we expect a higher or more difficulty from UAE or Uzbekistan these next games?
I'm very excited for the UAE game, first of all, for many reasons, of course. I think that Team Melli will go into these games maybe a lot less stressed than the previous ones, because let's be honest, qualification is pretty much secured for the national team, unless we lose like every game 5-0 or something like that. But I still think these are very important games for the morale of the team to integrate young players if Ghalenoei wants to. I'm not sure what his plans are on that. But yeah, especially the UAE game. That game is going to be very interesting to see because UAE have brought in a lot of naturalized players this camp. I saw a tweet a few days ago on Twitter. It was very funny. It was about the new kits. So it was written that Iran has just released a new Nowruz kit for the UAE game, and then the UAE has released a new kit as well, and it was the Brazilian kit with the UAE logo on it. So yeah, a very very funny tweet.
What are the expectations in UAE for this game, and also where do they feel like are they confident for qualification?
Well, they're not very confident in their manager, Bento, um, and rightly so. I don't think he's been doing good for them. But they are confident in the newly brought players like Kyle Lucas, Bruno, Marcus Maloney, who did play the last camp, but he is suspended for the Iran game due to accumulation of yellow cards. But yeah, lots of Emirati players there that will be playing for the UAE for the first time. And their expectations are a draw. That's what they want at least. They want to be able to get a point because historically UAE have never won an official game against Iran. And I've spoken to some people. They're saying, "Oh, we could be at our best, and Iran could be doing very badly, and but they still somehow score like a 57th minute Taremi goal to beat us." And yeah, hopefully it does that. Hopefully we do win again.
I think it's fair to say, yeah, when you have Osman and Taremi up front, on the continent, anything is possible. We don't necessarily need to be on our best. As to be honest, we haven't been on our best in the last few games either, but we still managed to win. Yeah, I agree with Erfan. I think firstly, I think it will be difficult. Uzbekistan are a difficult team to play. We struggled against them the last game as well. I do expect to win both, but I don't think it'll be straightforward. But look, personally, I would rather see the likes of Hasbobi, Hossein Nejad get more opportunities, and would happily drop points against one of them if it means getting these younger players getting more game time. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Well, tradition is you always have to wear the lavase no, the new clothes on Nowruz, and that is what Team Ali will be doing, wearing green for the first time since I want to say the 2004 Asian Cup. They had the tricolor kit back then. It was a green top, white shorts, and red socks. That's personally my favorite. I believe this kit will be associated with green shorts and green socks as well. Do we have confirmation on that? Personally, I would like to see again the tricolor, but I saw in the picture the players were wearing green shorts, even a green red kind of thing like the 2006 Mexican team. They usually wear tricolor, but they wore green red bottom. For that. So, what do we think of this green kit? It's still Marouge, the company, but it's a different. It's a different kind of pattern. One viewer commented back at us, Erfan, the other day that the pattern on the top right chest does form kind of a cheetah face or silhouette. So that was kind of neat. But yeah, this is almost like a rare W with the Iranian uniforms, no?
Yeah, I really like this kit. I was very surprised when I saw this. I had to double check the Team Melli Instagram account to make sure it was real. But yeah, a shout out to the guys who worked on this. I think this was actually taken from some fans, from some concept designers. I think one of the pages was a Monster Kit. They designed some very good kits for another national team only, but PGPL clubs as well. So yeah, I was surprised to see the federation working with some of these smaller designers. But yeah, like we saw, looks amazing. And hopefully it can wash away the bad memories we have in the green kits.
Let's not act like we never did well with the green kit. I mean, the 70s, the 90s, we wore green all the time.
I meant the recent times. I mean, in
Recent,
2004.
21 years ago, mate.
Yeah, that was the last time we wore it, no? Wasn't it?
I mean, what Ivankovic? You think his ghost is still there with the jersey?
Well, what I mean is I hope it's better than the last time we wore it. So
Well, at least unlike the last time, we won't go to penalties. Because I think
yeah,
that last time was against China, wasn't it? In the semi-finals. Yeah. So it would be good to see Di Melli in a different color. Nowruz special.
Yeah, I'm excited just to see that. We'll see if that translates into quality of play as well for the guys' first time playing since November. Any specific Nowruz wishes that we have for the new year of Iranian football? Erfan, I'll let you go first. What comes to mind that you would really like to see in this year leading up to maybe a new chance at ACL for your beloved Esteghlal? Maybe a statue of Cheshmi to be built. I'm sure you'd like that.
I think the latter is more realistic.
Yeah.
the statue is in the works. We'll be building that in the center of Tehran, hopefully very soon. Yeah, I hope Esteghlal can maybe win the Hasfi Cup. I mean, that's the only realistic thing we have going on right now. We have a pretty easy path to the final, only facing clubs from the Azerbaijan. So hopefully we can do that and at least get some sort of continental spot for next season. But for Team Melli, I hope to see some good friendlies after we qualify for the World Cup. There has been some rumors going on. The vice president of the federation said Russia is confirmed. He also said that talks with Venezuela are going on. I don't know what to think of that, but I hope we can play some top tier nations going on to the World Cup.
Yeah, I will say though, Venezuela is very close to qualifying. They need to get a few games going their way, and they'll qualify for the first ever World Cup. I mean, gosh, there's hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans in the U.S., so that'd be fantastic for them to see. They've been upping their quality. It would not by any means be a weak friendly if it was both teams A squads, I'd say. Sina, what about you, mate?
Um, I mean, this summer specifically, I think it's a really good opportunity for some of these younger players to move to Europe, and that's what I'd like to see. I know we've had quite a few 18, 19, 20-year-olds doing really well in the domestic league, and undoubtedly there will be opportunities for them to move out of Iran into Europe. And I think when it comes to moving to Europe, anywhere is good. And just going back to what we discussed regarding these younger generation, getting more of an opportunity for the national team, I think that kind of forces Ghalenoei's hand in order to give them those minutes, to give them those opportunities. I think qualification for the World Cup is inevitable anyway. I just hope that we can improve our performances and be better prepared come next summer.
I think I'll let you guys take those wishes. My wish will probably be for the women's national team to qualify for the Asian Cup and call up the two players I interviewed, not from a personal sense whatsoever, but just because of the quality that they would offer and the amount of springboard that would get for Iran's women's football infrastructure. I think they could really make a difference in quality, in precedent. There's so much potential to really up the women's game, and we have a lot more chances with more teams being included in the World Cup and the Women's World Cup as the years go by. They keep talking about expanding the World Cup, and Iran's one of the biggest countries in Asia with football. Why not? So that would be my wish. Whether it's realistic or not, I'll let our viewers discuss on that. Okay, for the immediate future though, these two Nowruz season games, UAE, Uzbekistan, predictions. Want to hear what you guys think of each of these two games. Sina?
Oh, I think 2-1 against Uzbekistan and then 1-0 against UAE.
I don't think we'll win both games, but I think in true Iran fashion, Iran style, we'll still manage a 1-0 win against UAE, like always. And I'll say a 0-0 draw against Uzbekistan, like true Iran Uzbekistan fashion.
I'm gonna go with identical match with UAE from the first leg. I think it was 2-0. I'm gonna go with or maybe it was 1-0. It was 1-0 the first leg. I'm gonna go with 2-0 this time, and then a little bit of a drop off with UAE, perhaps 1-1 this time with Uzbekistan. That's just more the rational thought for me. All right. Any final thoughts, anyone, or do we want to go ahead and wrap this up? Sina, it was awesome to hear from you again, mate.
It's honestly an absolute pleasure. I think what was 2013 was when we started this. So obviously, I have less hair now and less knowledge, but we've got the likes of Erfan. We've got a better team all around us. So lovely to be involved. Lovely to speak to you. And hopefully, who knows, maybe next year I'll be on again.
Hopefully sooner than that, man. That's my other Nowruz wish, by the way. We're getting Sina to be more than just once a year.
Well, listen, audio is only 20 minutes away from me. And to be fair to him, he's been asking to do a joint kind of in-person podcast. So maybe in one of the episodes, me and him will be together and join you guys.
Oh, you've put it out there, so we're gonna hold you to that now.
Yeah, just to Sina, knowledge doesn't come with hair. I mean, just ask Pep Guardiola or many other managers. But yeah, I just hope everyone has a great Nowruz with their families, and hopefully everyone stays safe and happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, Erfan, great message there. And thank you to everyone who was watching this. And if you have been watching on YouTube, or even if you're not, please go to our YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Give us a like. Give us a comment. Let us know your thoughts. We need all the exposure we can get. That's ultimately our biggest Nowruz wish, is to get you guys to like and subscribe to us. It really makes a big difference. It allows us to pursue these new ventures, these travels to cover games, like what Erfan's been doing. Allows us to get better equipment to bring good coverage, to talk to these Iranian Legionnaires, to talk to coaches and journalists. Your support really means a lot to us. And yeah, we'll be back. And of course, hosting Twitter Spaces for these matches. We're going to try to make sure we get that going. Yeah, Nowruz Piruz. We'll see you guys for the next official episode right after these qualifiers. We'll see you then. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Erfan Farmani.
Hello, my name is Ali Gholizadeh, and you are listening to
Bezan podcast.